Hi, my name is Ken Prell. I'm a Vice President and Chief Learning Officer at BPAS. I am here today with my colleague, Amy Kent, a Vice President of Consulting at BPAS. She is the former chair of the Social Security Committee at the American Academy of Actuaries and is here today to talk with us about the history of Social Security. Social Security turns 89 this year, and to celebrate the birthday of our nation's retirement income program, we're sharing some history and insights. Amy, let's start at the beginning. When did Social Security start?
Social Security was signed into law by Franklin Delano Roosevelt on August 14th, 1935, so 89 years ago this month. Taxes were first collected in January of 1937, and the first ongoing monthly benefits started in January 1940. The first recipient of Social Security was a man from Ohio named Ernest Ackerman. He received a lump sum payout of 17 cents in January 1937. The first monthly payment went to a Vermont woman named Ida Mae Fuller. Social Security taxes were collected from her paycheck for about 3 years, from 1937 to late 1939. A total of $24.75 was collected. Her monthly retirement check was the very first one issued in January of 1940. She lived to the age of 100 and received a total of nearly $22,900 over the course of her retirement.
Interesting. So how have Social Security benefits evolved over the years?
Under the 1935 law, only retirement benefits to the primary worker were included. A reform in 1939 added survivors' benefits and benefits for the retiree's spouse and children. Disability benefits were added to the program in 1956. Annual cost of living adjustments were added in 1975. Prior to that time, benefits were increased periodically, but that occurred through acts of Congress and weren't automatic.
Okay, so we know about how benefits have changed over the years. Can you tell us how worker contribution levels have changed over the years?
In 1937, the original contribution level was 1% of earnings made by both the employee and 1% made by the employer. The annual maximum level of earnings at that time was $3,000. So the 1% was only collected up to $3,000 of earnings. As time has progressed, the percentages contributed by the employer and the employee have increased, as well as the annual maximum level of earnings that's taken into account for taxation. In 1984, right after the reform in 1983, the percentages contributed by the employer and the employee were increased to 6.2% apiece. In that year, the annual maximum level of earnings was $37,800. The percentages of income have stayed the same in total since that time, although the amounts being allocated separately to OASI and DI have been modified over the years. So Social Security is actually made up of two separate programs, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Program and then the Disability Insurance Program. The annual maximum level of earnings is now automatically adjusted each year. In 2024, the annual maximum level of earnings that is taxed is $168,600.
Wow. Amy, you mentioned that last big reform measure that was enacted in 1983. What changed for Social Security in that legislative package?
As 1983 was approaching, projections indicated that the Social Security Trust Fund would be depleted by 1983. A commission was formed, chaired by Alan Greenspan, to investigate the long-term solvency of Social Security. The commission recommendations were the basis of the 1983 amendments. Highlights of the changes made at that time included accelerating a previously enacted increase in the payroll tax, adding additional workers to the system. The full retirement age was slowly increased from 65 to 67. And then an income tax on Social Security benefits was introduced, which actually the tax collected comes back to the Social Security program. Up to half of the value of the Social Security benefit above certain thresholds was subject to the income tax. And then later in 1993, OBRA added another higher level of taxation threshold. An interesting note is that some of the additional workers added to the system included members of Congress, the president, vice president, and federal judges.
Of course. It's been over 40 years now. Amy, how does the financial status of Social Security today compared to that leading up to the 1983 reforms?
Based on the 2024 trustees report, the Social Security actuaries project that on a combined basis, meaning combining OASI and DI together, the trust fund reserve will be depleted in 2035. At the time of the projected depletion, the income to the system will still support an estimated 83% of benefits. What is important to note is that the Social Security actuaries have been projecting a trust fund reserve depletion date between 2033 and 2035 for the last 13 years, and then further, a depletion date between 2029 and 2042 over the last 34 years. So the fact that the trust fund reserve will be depleted without congressional action has been a known fact for many years.
Yes, I think we all know this is not a new development. What needs to be done to stabilize the future financial status of Social Security?
Congress will need to take legislative action for any changes to the program to be made. There are two ways to bring Social Security into financial balance. Either taxes will need to be increased or benefits will need to be decreased. And of course, a combination of some of these would also provide financial balance. Based on the 2024 trustees report, if an immediate increase in the payroll tax was implemented from the 6.2% currently required to 7.87% for both the employee and the employer, the system would be in financial balance. Alternatively, if all benefits of the system were reduced immediately by 20.8%, the system would be in balance. Now, if changes are delayed, the increase in the amount of the additional tax needed increases, or additional benefits would need to be reduced. Therefore, the sooner Congress acts will provide less dramatic changes and more time to implement these changes.
What are some of the specific reform options that are being considered?
So all of the options are divided into the two categories mentioned, either increasing the income to the system, reducing the benefits, or some combination of these. Here are a few randomly selected reform options that would increase the income to the Social Security system. As mentioned, increasing the payroll tax percentage, or increase the maximum taxable wage. Some proposals increase the maximum for both taxes and the benefit calculation. Other proposals increase the maximum only for the collection of taxes. Another proposal would be to increase the income taxation of the Social Security benefits themselves. Other ideas including additional compensation elements that are not currently taxed for Social Security, such as contributions to medical plans, the Cafeteria 125 plans, and flexible spending accounts. Another proposal is the taxation of investment income of S corporation officers and limited partners. And then a few ideas regarding a few of the reform options that would decrease the benefits paid from Social Security. There are several proposals that adjust the cost of living downwards, so there would be less increase in the future. Another idea would be to adjust the underlying benefit formula such that future benefits calculated would be less than those under the current formula. And another proposal is, and there are actually several proposals in this area, to adjust the full retirement age. Some of those would leave the earliest eligibility age as 62, and others increase the earliest eligibility age past age 62.
Wow, that's quite a lot to digest. Where could someone look to see the impact of these proposed changes on the financial status of the Social Security system?
On the Social Security website, the Office of the Chief Actuary posts a value for many different individual provisions. As an example, if the maximum taxable wage was eliminated entirely and all income was taxable, and also the increased wage was used in the benefit calculations, 55% of the actuarial deficit would be eliminated. This is provision E as in Edward 2.2 on the Social Security website. If the maximum taxable wage base was eliminated for taxation purposes and the higher compensation was not used in the calculation of the benefit, that would eliminate 70% of the actuarial shortfall. This is provision E 2.1 from the Social Security website. An example of a benefit calculation reduction would be provision B, as in boy, 3.8. In this proposal, the underlying benefit calculation would be adjusted starting in the year 2030, resulting in a 28% reduction of the actuarial deficit. Note that the Social Security website values many different proposals and updates the values annually after the trustees' report is published. Further, as bills are proposed in Congress, the Office of the Chief Actuary of Social Security values the impact of those on the financial status of the program and publishes those on the website as well. There's one other resource that I would like to mention for reviewing the impact of changes on Social Security, and that is the Social Security Challenge on the website of the American Academy of Actuaries.
I can see how it's been difficult to get congressional consensus with all these various options, and they all have their pros and cons. So what can current and future recipients, like ourselves, of Social Security do at this time?
It is important to write your senator and congressional representative to express the need for changes to the system and for urgency in making changes.
Thank you for this wonderful description of Social Security, Amy. That concludes our talk. For more information about planning for your retirement, please visit BPAS University. Thank you.